Om Shri Sai Ram, offering my most humble and loving salutations at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagwan, Sri Satya Sai Baba. On this auspicious week of the advent of our Master, I'm blessed to bring another episode of his story through the eyes of his boys. Let us start this beautiful evening with our prayer, and I request all of you to please join me. O Lord, take my love and let it flow in fullness of devotion to Thee. O Lord, take my hands and let them work incessantly for Thee. O Lord, take my soul and let it be merged in one with Thee. O Lord, take my mind and thoughts and let them be in tune with Thee. O Lord, take my everything and let me be an instrument to work for Thee. This week, this day is filled with so many memories, memories of gratitude, memories of love, laughter, our connect with Bhagwan, His grace. And on this beautiful occasion, it's our attempt to relive and share with you all those beautiful moments of Lord, those beautiful stories which can allow us to connect with Lord, to feel His presence, and bask in the glory of our Master. As Bhagwan himself says, when you listen to my story, you forget the story of the world and live in only my story. Until there is no separate story for you to relate to or live by. Well, to make you storyless is the purpose of my story. I feel this is a very beautiful gratitude which Bhagwan, we can offer to Bhagwan is to share the glory of our Lord and the Master. Swami has given us in abundance, and today we are here to listen to another brother of mine, another student of Bhagwan, who is blessed to be a musician and who has given us over 200 to 300 bhajans, which we keep enjoying and remembering our Lord with. Today, I have a pleasure to introduce to you all Brother Sonam Gyamtso Tenzing. Sairam Bhaiya.
Sai Ram, Abhimanyu Sai Ram, it's a great
Thank you, Bhaiya.
privilege to be here and on such a momentous occasion. It's almost the birthday eve, and the whole
Yes,
world
of
is,
course.
world is rejoicing. And to be part of this rejoicing, it's a great privilege.
Thank you, Bhaiya. Let me say a few words of introduction for Brother Sonam. Brother Sonam hails from Sikkim, as most of you might know, and coming from a Buddhist background, he has a very adventurous story how he got into the divine fold and how his journey unfolded and carried on. He joined Bhagwan's school in 70s, after 79, and in Vrindavan. He did his graduation, post graduation. Then he has a very adventurous tale, the way he did his doctorate, PhD, and that too under the direct divine guidance of Bhagwan. and I look forward to hearing the story from him directly. Brother Sonam has wearing a lot of multiple caps, if I may say, in his professional life. He has worked with government, semi-government, private. He even runs a charity called Space Sikkim. He is involved with the Sutasai school in Sikkim. And Brother Sonam has been with Bhagwan. Once he got into it, he never left, in a way that he has been helping others to connect with Bhagwan through his beautiful music. So, Brother Sonam, I think it will be a befitting thing to start this evening with a nice bhajan from your side.
Yeah, definitely. Vinayaka Gauri Nandana Gajvadana Prathama Vandana Vinayaka Gauri Nandana Gajvadana Prathama Vandana Pahi Ganesh Deva Buddhi Pradayak Deva Siddhi Vinayak Deva Mahadeva Sindur Shobhit Matang Vadana Modak Priya Shubhamangal Charana Vakratund Mahakaya Buddhi Pradayak Deva Vakratund Mahakaya Buddhi Pradayak Deva Siddhi Vinayak Deva Mahadeva Vinayaka Gauri Nandana Gajavadana Prathama Vandana Pahi Ganesh Deva Buddhi Pradayak Deva Siddhi Vinayak Deva Sai Deva.
Beautiful. I think it's a new composition.
It's yeah, pretty new composition.
But yeah, I had stolen this picture, which is in your altar, about your Ganesha. So I thought it'll be nice to hear the story behind this beautiful idol of Ganesh.
Well, my fascination for the Prathama Vandana Ganesha dates back in time to 1970s. I always had a fascination for Lord Ganesh, and who doesn't? Like in this entire world, the most beautiful figure, the most beautiful name, the most beautiful form, so versatile. In any way, in any manner, in any attitude, he looks so beautiful. So what happened was when I joined Swami's college in Vrindavan, I wanted to get something from Bhagwan. I always yearned for, because Swami was, in those days, there was hardly any student in the hostel who didn't receive a gift from Bhagwan. It could be either an amulet, a locket, or a chain, or whatever, except me. I was the only person singled out. I didn't get anything from Bhagwan. Despite the passage of an entire year, 12 months, still I was high and dry. So one day I spied into one of my seniors' cupboard, and most of our seniors, they would decorate the cupboard so beautifully. The cupboard would be almost an altar, and all the clothes would be kept inside the suitcases, so that the altar would be empty and it would serve the purpose of an the cupboard would serve the purpose of an altar. So I saw a beautiful Ganesh sitting there in his altar, and the moment I saw that, all my desire for lockets and rings and chains and watches disappeared completely, and all that
Now,
I wanted was a Ganesh.
so now you wanted a Ganesha.
I wanted a Ganesha, and that too a Ganesha of Panchadhatu, the five metals. So I wanted that. So I started writing letters. Those days, those were the letter writing days. This is how we initially began. So, despite writing so many letters, there was hardly any reply from Bhagwan. Although he used to talk every day, almost every day, to the extent that one day when he didn't talk to me for 3 days, I also stopped going for darshan. And then Swami said, "Pagal, काय को darshan में नहीं आया?" So stopped going for darshan in the sense, stopped going to the front, except in the bhajan session in the evening when you had to sit in the front. But then I stopped running after him and all that. And then he said,
As
"Kai
a
ko?"
mark of protest. As a mark
Yeah,
of
protest.
protest.
It was a silent protest. And then Swami said, कितने बार बात कर सकता है रोज 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 एवरीडे कैसे बात कर सकता है दूसरा भी इतना बड़ा ज्यादा काम है all those things he used to say.
How can I talk to you every day? I have other work also.
Yeah. But then there was no mention of Ganesh. So one day, and those days, and the tradition in Vrindavan continues, our Satyasai University continues even till this day, and it will continue till the end of time. Boys have their self-reliance program. And every Saturday, every weekend, we have our self-reliance program. So on one of those self-reliance days, it was a Saturday, and we were cleaning up the premises. And I was assigned the cleaning of a junk room in the basement. So as I was cleaning up the place, I saw amidst a lot of filth and garbage, Ganesha. This was the Ganesha which you showed just now. So when I saw the Ganesha, my first reflex was that I picked it up and put it in my pocket, taking it for granted that it is meant for me, it is mine. But the second thought that came to me was that I might be thieving, I might be stealing it. It might belong to somebody. So for a confirmation, I went to Yogi Nandakumar, who was a very inspiring senior, and Swami himself called him Yogi. So I asked him, and he said, very nonchalantly, depends upon where you found the Ganesha. If you found it in somebody's cupboard, you cannot take it. But if you found it somewhere else, abandoned and thrown away, cast away, then you can pick it up. I said, yeah, it was in that condition. It was in the junk room. So he said, then it's all yours. Take it. So I took the Ganesha, and there in that junk room itself, I found this, the pedestal. It was actually a katora, a small steel cup. So when upside down, when you overturned it, it became a beautiful, befitting pedestal for my Ganesha. So I was ecstatic to get my Ganesha, and I took it straight to my cupboard. And then I had also by the time a fine modicum of decoration in my cupboard. So I kept the Ganesha, installed it there. So that evening, I expected Swami to tell me something, because I knew that he has given me the Ganesha. But it didn't come from him. The next day in the morning, he said during darshan, when we were waiting for darshan, about to go to the institute campus, go to the college. So as we were having his morning darshan, he said, "Hey, tumko Ganesha mila? Kaisa? No, Ganesha kaisa laga tumko?" He said. So I said,
how did you
"It's
find
beautiful."
Ganesha?
How did you find the Ganesha? I said, "It's beautiful, Swami." Swami said, "It is made of the five metals." Then he said, "I will teach you how to do the puja of Ganesha."
Puja, prayer. Beautiful.
Yeah. And then he said, I'll teach you it in the course of time. But for now, you say Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namaha. You say that and do the puja. Pour water on it, and then do the abhishekam, and then you can drink that water. He said. So I would never believe. I would have never believed at that point in time that the teaching session of Ganesha Puja would go on for 13 years in three small installments. And on my 13th year in Prashanti Nilay, when I was a PhD scholar, at that time he taught me the Laghu Puja of that Ganesha. He said, are you still continuing with the puja? I said, yes, Swami. Then I'll teach you how to do Laghu Puja. And he taught me how to do the Laghu Puja in the interview room. With my parents were there with me. So that's the story of this Ganesha.
Wonderful. I would say, it is his way. Now, it's a fantastic thing that Swami has taught you. Maybe when the time permits, we can hear the whole process and record it for you, for everybody to enjoy that. Okay, let us start the journey now. And I want to take people through a journey of your life with Bhagwan. So tell us, how did Bhagwan hook the family? Who was the main conduit in your family to bring Bhagwan in?
Yeah, I have shared my story in 10 different places, and
no problem. Make it short in case people have not heard in this forum, so they can at least get an idea.
Yeah, but the story as such, as you said, as it unfolds, it mesmerizes you, and you feel like sharing it again. It's like sharing a prized possession of yours and sharing it with others, gaining the joy out of it. So my story goes back to 1973, when I was a student I was studying in Kalimpong, little bit far from the madding crowd, far from home. And my mother had, she was a school teacher at that time. Sorry, in 1973, I was doing in the last leg of my study in the same school where my mother was teaching. And we used to go to school together, return home together. And that particular day, she asked me to go home on my own, because she had to go to visit a friend's house. She went there, and in the evening when she returned home, she had in her hands, she had a book of bhajans. It was a beautiful compilation of Sai bhajans into Nepali by one great doyen of the Sai movement in Darjeeling, Krishna Singh Muktan. So that gentleman had compiled this book, and on the cover of the book was a picture of Bhagwan, which was a photo print, and it was a very smudged picture. Now, what happened was, before even I could hear the story from our mother, I took the book in my hand, and when I looked at the picture, I just fell in love with the form. I just fell in love with Bhagwan. It was written Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba Ashtotar Shatnamavali, and all that. Then our mother told us the story that she went to her friend's house, and there was lot of vibhuti oozing out of a huge picture, coming out of a huge picture of Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba. And then she said that I saw God and came.
So sweet.
Definitely, there is no doubt that He is God. So for us, it was a very, very simple, induction ceremony. That she just saw the picture, she fell in love. I saw the picture, I fell in love, and my cousin sister, eldest sister, she also saw the picture. And then after some time, she said, I saw him crossing our compound and walking past our compound. I saw him just now.
Oh,
so he said, so fast things were happening. In a span of 2 to 3 hours, we were already introduced to Bhagwan as though we had known him since times immemorial. So that was our first beginning. And then after that, I was looking for avenues to learn how to, because there were so many bhajans written in that book. We didn't know the tunes, and I had a penchant for singing, thanks to my mother. Our mother was a Ravindra Sangeet singer, and she used to make us sing at home. Singing was one of the best things that we did at home, one of the best pastimes we had at home. So I wanted to learn those songs, and in 2 weeks' time, at the local Hindu temple called Thakurbari, a group of experts in bhajan experts from Darjeeling, they had announced that they were teaching bhajans, and they were teaching the
Oh,
ways of Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba. So I went and attended on a Sunday. I attended the session, and it went on for a whole day. And I learned a number of songs. There was hardly any recording facility at that time. So I had to learn the song the way the group from Kuppam also used to learn from Swami directly. There was no recording facility, so
got
they had to remember the song verbatim and sing it before Bhagwan. So, uh, just a small digression. Kupam Vijayamma, she told me that she alone learned 800 songs, and she was 13 years old when Swami taught her those songs. 800 songs she
800
learned from
songs
Bhagwan. 800
from,
songs
from Swami
from
or from
Swami.
everybody.
No, the Kupam
Wow.
family used to come to Prashanti Nilayam. They were one of the earliest families, groups coming to Prashanti Nilayam. And Swami used to
Wow.
be waiting near on the banks of the Chitravati. And the Kupam group, they wading through the river. The last leg of the journey used to be, the adventure used to be wading across the river. And then when they would come on this side of the river of Chitravati, Swami would be a strapling youth, so young. He would be waiting for them, and he would say, "You took so much time. I was just waiting and waiting for you." And then Swami would take them to Pata Mandir, and then right there in Pata Mandir, Swami would brew fantastic coffee for them. Swami would himself make tiffin for them, and after eating, Swami would say, "Let's get down to business." And the business was learning. The business
Learning
was
bhajan.
learning. And the bhajans were not the types that we sing today. These are later evolutions. At that time, the songs were huge solo songs like the ones that we have heard Swami sing at a later stage in our life. And those songs these people had to learn, and then they had to demonstrate before Swami. So of course, they had to learn. So, a
What
small
a
digression.
journey. What a
So,
journey. What a journey.
I learned, and I think most of the devotees of Bhagwan would have found bhajan as the entry point to enter into the domain of Sai. They would have come through bhajan, because bhajan attracts.
If I am right, in those days, Sikkim was still a different kingdom
Yeah,
and very Buddhist, so to say. Did you find any difficulties in those days to sing Bhagwan's bhajans and all that?
yeah, we were a pretty orthodox Buddhist country. It was a bastion of Buddhism, and that too esoteric Tibetan Buddhism. So we were, as born in in a Buddhist family, we followed the Buddhist creed very religiously. And when I learned those bhajans, then I went out into the market for to hunt for a picture of Bhagwan. And at last I found one picture, got it framed, brought it home, and the picture straight away adorned our altar. And
Altar.
the altar in any Tibetan Buddhist house is a very elaborate one. So, and it's made in such a way that most of us, we stand and do our prayers. And then, if it is an elaborate long prayer session, ritual session, then we sit down and do. So I kept the picture there, and we looked for us Thursday. And on the Thursday, all of us, we gathered around the picture of Bhagwan, and around the altar. And then we didn't know, we were so inhibited because we didn't know whether we could sing aloud. because for fear of being reported to the authorities and the Buddhist authorities. So we were afraid of that. So we whispered the bhajans. So Manas Bhajare was the one of the earliest bhajans, and Ganesh bhajan, and my Didi sang the third bhajan. And on the third bhajan, the picture broke out into two streams of Amrit right inside the picture frame,
The
and then
glass frame,
uh,
yes. Hmm.
glass frame. And then after that, we were initiated. That was our entry point. Then after that,
Beautiful.
we couldn't care. We could care less about anyone reporting or whatever. We just fell in love with him and started singing his bhajans madly.
So when was the first physical darshan of Bhagwan? Where did you see him and when it happened?
The first physical darshan was in Prashanti Nilayam. I had over the period of time I was telling you, I studied in Kalimpong. After I left Sikkim, I went all the way to Kalimpong to study. It's a nearby town. It's a picturesque, beautiful town. And there in Kalimpong, I developed the habit of smoking. For 10 months, I smoked cigarette. I tried everything. And after doing that, and this has a sequel at a very much later time. I think before, lest I forget it, can I share it here?
Sure.
Yeah. It so happened that one day Swami was in the safe room in Vrindavan. I'll describe the safe room at a later stage, but then suffice it to say that the safe room was a very safe room in the sense there was a iron safe kept inside the room. It was adjacent to Swami's in
No,
Swami's
we know
living.
that because while describing the Vrindavan days, people have explained and shown the
Okay.
pictures of the safe room also. So you
So
can
if
refer
I
it.
safe room, that's enough. So in the
Yeah.
safe room, Swami was that day talking to people about their habits, old habits. So all the big ones divulged their secrets, and it so turned out that everyone turned out to be a past, a smoker or an alcoholic in the past. Everyone had the taste of the poison. And Swami said, "Look at me. I am so pristine and pure. And you people are like," Swami looked at Professor Kasturi and said, you sit there so hunched and bent. It's all because of your bad habit. And then look at me. So he said, "Swami, you are God. So you look all the time fresh and beautiful." Swami said, I don't need to use divine powers to look like this. It's my discipline. If it's my self-contentment that makes me look all the time fresh and young. That's what Swami said. So then Swami looked at me and said, "What about you? Did you smoke?"
Nitya Nutan.
Then he said, "This Donna Pota, he smoked so much cigarette, and one day he smoked cigarette, blew the smoke on the face of his headmaster." Now that was one thing I could not, accept because I knew consciously that I had never done a thing like that. So I said, "Swami, I didn't do that." Swami said, "Hey, speak the truth." So I said, "Swami, I didn't. I smoked cigarette, but I didn't. I didn't blow the cigarette on my headmaster's face." Then Swami said, "No, you did it." Then Swami said, "Speak the truth," in in an undertone, and that was almost goading me and telling me that say yes. So I said, "Yes, Swami, I did that." Swami said, "See, now he's speaking the truth." But that perturbed me, it disturbed me completely. I thought, why would Swami ask me to speak a lie, untruth? So I went back to the hostel, and I was very much disturbed. And all of a sudden, the realization came to me, the memory came back to me that way back in 1972, 1974, I was caught in an agitation, in a political agitation. All the students in our school had agitated against the headmaster because he didn't really prove himself worthy of our adoration, whatever. So when we did that, he had hired some local thugs to chastise us or to take us to task. So in frustration, we had in our meeting, I had taken out a picture of the headmaster, and then I had drawn in a whole mouthful of smoke, and I had just blown the smoke on the picture of our headmaster, and I said that I will smoke him out, man. I'll smoke him out. So that was the life, And that faint memory, which I had even forgotten completely, Swami had reminded me and told me that you have done that also. So, so because of these indulgences, could be at a later stage, I became stricken with, asthma. It started
Okay.
with pneumonia. The pneumonia became bronchial asthma, and to the extent that I could not breathe at all. For almost 9 to 10 months, I suffered miserably. I was extremely sick, and I thought that I was dying. I was thinking. Then a thought came to my mind, a thought of penitence that I have not been a very good son to my parents. So I told my mother, amidst gasps, I was gasping it out, take me to Puttaparthi. If I have to die, let me go and die at his feet there. So that was the first time my mother would do anything for me because, seeing me in that condition. And then we ventured out to Prashanti Nilayam, very uncharted destiny because we had never been to South India. And then we reached Prashanti Nilayam in 1977, I mean 1976, 1976, December 31st, we reached Prashanti Nilayam. And on the 1st of January, the next day, on New Year's Day, 1977, he called us in for interview. And that was the first time, the 31st December itself, in the evening, we had our first darshan of Bhagwan, in the evening darshan. It was beautiful in the sense that no sooner we entered the ashram, I just feel like sharing my first impression of Prashanti Nilayam when I reached there.
Sure. Please,
Yeah,
please do that.
I was somehow trying to walk. Someone had to support me to walk even. I had become so lean and so worn out. So but my voice was very loud. So I was telling my mother, where could we get an accommodation? I wanted to reach somewhere and then take some rest. And then from the huge sprawling shed on the left side of Ganesha temple, which used to be called the Ganesha shed. And the Ganesha shed is one of the Swami called it the most sacrosanct spot on earth because millions of devotees, they started their spiritual journey from that spot
From
and
the
they did their penance there in that. And it used to be, one of the most beautiful, places on earth, that shed, because I have lived in that shed for so many times in my life. So somebody emerged out of the shed and silenced me and said, shh, because even my voice was sounding so loud in the crispness of the silence of the ashram. The ashram was so silent. And then he guided us to the accommodation office where we were greeted by an elderly gentleman with a big smile. And then he said, where are you from? And Sikkim, oh, that is a very far off place. And then he said, how many days? And I said, 1 month. And he said this, I'll never forget in my life. Why not 3 months at least? Having come all the way from Sikkim, trans Himalayan journey, why can't you stay for 3 months at least at a stretch? So those were the days when accommodation was accorded to you for any number of time, any stretch of time that you could afford to stay there in the ashram.
wow. Okay.
Then we were given a place in West Prashanti 1. We were given a room in West Prashanti 1 and sea floor. And then very soon we were completely, we felt completely fresh and lively and robust. We had a bath, went for the evening afternoon tea and snacks in the South Indian. That was only canteen then. And after tea and snacks, We then slowly walked into the ashram. And then again, another facet of the ashram that I would like to share here. We could walk into the ashram at any point in time. And the sands of Chitravati were spread carpet. It was a carpet of sands all over the place. And the sand was so soft. And then it wouldn't stick on you. That was another facet of the sand of Chitravati. It wouldn't stick on you at all. It looked very muddy in color, but it hardly left any impression on your clothes. Those were the hallmark of the marks of the pristine purity of the sand, and it was spread all over, and you could select any spot in any spot in the ashram, in the foregrounds of the compound, of the ashram, and sit there. So I selected a very quiet place and sat there. And the next 10 to 15 minutes, Swami walked out. And the walking out was very casual because it was not endorsed or, height, and, it was not uh, endorsed by any music. It was not underlined by a music, which in the later times we had the darshan music.
Yeah,
So
part of it. Yeah.
yeah, so some of us we had we could wait, and then we would know, okay, now Swami is coming out because darshan music has started. But then those days, he would take you unawares, catch you unawares. So he just would walk out. He would just step out, and it was such a sublime step, and very fluffy. It was almost like he was gliding. And then he walked towards the devotees everywhere. He walked towards me. And then in our family, we three had, my mother, my niece, and me. We three had gone there. So he singled me out and he said, uh, "Kaha kidhar se aaya?" He said. Then he said, "Kal dekhta hai." I didn't know what actually it meant at that point in time. What does it mean, "Kal dekhta hai"? Means he will see me once again, or whatever it is. But people told me very quickly. People filled me up, and they said that he has promised that he will call you in for interview tomorrow. Then we went back, and the next day, then the evening bhajan I went to. That was my first bhajan as a devotee in Prashanti Nilayam. We just walked inside the bhajan hall. We just walked in. No one to stop us, no one to tell us anything. And then no one was indisciplined. There was no breach of discipline at any point in time. And then we walked in, and I sat right at the back because that is what I thought I should do since I was carrying a tape recorder to record the bhajan. So I thought I would be noisy and disturbing sitting right in the front. So sitting right at the back near the Gita Updesha, I sat there, and I had a sweeping glance, a sweeping account of the entire scenario. And I felt that, oh my God, this must be Treta Yuga. This was my first thought. Because, Swami's chair and the footstool, and then the birds chirping, the sparrows chirping all around. And then after some time, the Veena recital by Bhajan Vijaya started, half an hour Veena recital. And then after that, the bhajan started. It was the Ganesh bhajan came from the ladies' side, and then two bhajans at a stretch from the ladies' side, and then another two bhajans on the gents' side. And the bhajan was so, it was so enthralling. Like, I remember the first day bhajan in a chronological sequence, even to this day. I didn't write it down anywhere. It just got into my mind and sat there, stayed there, because the bhajan was so thrilling. So that was my first impression, my first bhajan, first darshan of Bhagwan.
So you had the interview with Bhagwan then?
Then I had the interview the next day.
Hmm.
We went inside. By the time we got into the interview, he closed the door and he did the vibhuti. He materialized vibhuti and made everyone feel comfortable. And then he looked at me and said, "Kya hai?" Then he said, told me, I'm just cutting things very short. He said,
Okay.
I gave you youth, you spoiled it. I gave you life, you have wasted it. It's better if you die now. This is what he told me. And the moment he told me about death, because I had gone there with the mindset to die, I felt very comfortable. Then I told him, Swami, I have come to die. Please, I want to die at your feet. But promise me that I'll be born in the same family so that I can serve my mother better than what I have done in this lifetime. The moment I said that and I touched his feet, he just literally lifted me up from there and he embraced me. Then he said that, you love your mother, I love you. Then he created Vibhuti and he, with his own hands, he opened up my three buttons of my shirt. And then I was not wearing anything, no banyan inside my shirt, I was not wearing an undergarment because of the heat. And I was just wearing the shirt and my chest was exposed to him. And he created the Vibhuti and he literally slapped it, he pasted it on my chest and he said that breathe in. And I did that. For the first time, I took in a full deep breath after 9 to 10 months of my sickness. And then Swami said, do it again, do it again. He made me breathe in 3 times. And he said, "Theek ho gaya." I was healed then and there. And then he said, "Ab kya? Now you are healed, what next?"
Now
Because
what? Now what?
now what? And even by the time he asked me, now what? Already, the desire to live on now, the yearnings of life, had started rising up. And I wanted to study in his college. Then that thought was planted inside my heart, inside my mind by him that very moment. Then, because it was not there earlier, I went there with the thought to die. And then I wanted to study in his college. And the moment I thought, I want to study in your college, he reciprocated, he replied straight away. He told me, "हाँ, Swami, तुमको admission देता है." Then I was shocked. How did he read my thoughts? Like, how did he? I didn't even spell it out. I didn't even articulate it. How did he
Speak.
hear me? And then I just wanted to test him once again. That devil had already started playing with my mind. Then I wanted to test him. I said, "Swami, please give me admission in your college." Once again, I reiterated what I had thought. And he looked at me very strangely and said, "Bola na tumko admission deta hai," he said.
I already said to you.
Yes. I have already said that I'll give you admission. So that left no rooms for me to doubt that he knew everything, he could read my mind. And in fact, what I was thinking in my mind was all his implant. Whatever he had planted there, whatever thoughts he had sowed there, that was what I was not in control at all. I knew that. Then he turned to my mother and told my mother, "Amma, isko May mein bhejo, Swami admission deta hai." So I went back home. We went back home, and it becomes so short now. It took so many days. It was an adventure back home. But then we reached home, and then I started counting my days for May to arrive so that I could be once again at his lotus feet. This is how it continued.
When did your singing start?
My
In
bhajan
Mandir as a
singing
student. As a student.
as a student, now once I joined Swami's Brindavan College,
Hmm.
I enlisted for bhajan singing. So those days, and again, the tradition continues even to this day, and it will continue forever. That students are auditioned by the experts in the hostel, who are comprising of seniors and senior
Seniors, yes.
singers.
Hmm.
So we had to fill a form, saying, mentioning what instruments you can play, what talents do you have. So it was a talent hunt program. And I wrote down as many instruments as possible so that I wouldn't miss out on anything. So I wrote down harmonica for mouth organ, guitar, and everything, tabla, dolak, everything I wrote there. Even the instruments that I hardly knew how to play. So during the audition, they asked me to play the harmonium because the last harmonium player had left the institute and they were waiting for the harmoniumist to come. And then I played something on the harmonium. Sai Teri Yaad Maha Sukhadai I played of Hari Om Sharan. And when I played that, they were very happy because that was a very practiced thing that I played. And they were satisfied and they selected me straight away for harmonium playing. Then I said that I would like to sing also, sir. Can I sing? So they said, sing. So I sang a bhajan and they were happy with it. They asked me to sing it, just sing a bit of it. They said, we want to hear your tonal quality. And then after that, the next day itself, in the hostel, in the college, I was made to sing in the morning prayer. And I sang this bhajan. Can I sing this song?
Sure, fun, surely. Introduce it.
Giri dharila Sham Gopal Natavadala Madan Gopal Mathura Natha Krishna Gopal Shri Madhusudana Murali Gopal Yashoda ke baal Nanda Gopal Ishwarama Priya Sai Gopal O Giridharila Sham Gopal Natavarla Madan Gopal.
Beautiful.
So this was the first bhajan I got a chance to sing.
Beautiful. I believe your name also was modified by Bhagwan, or
Yeah, he did that because the inevitable thing. He came after. He was in when I joined Vrindavan. He was in Prashanti Nilayam, and he returned to Prashant Vrindavan only after Guru Purnima. So after Guru Purnima, at long last, I had the first glimpse of Bhagwan as a student, and it was one of the most thrilling times of my life. Then he asked me because he gives this treatment to everyone, and everyone gets a different connotation out of it. For me, I got my share of the chance when he asked me, "Kidhar se aaya?" That was the first question. So I said, "Swami, Sikkim se." Swami said, "Sikkim se nahi, seek him." He said, "Sikkim nahi, seek him." So that was the first time I was thrilled to the core because no one had taught me that etymology of my own birthplace, Sikkim. I'd heard of Sikkim as Sukkim or Shikhin, but then nobody had told me this most beautiful thing. And that was my first initiation. I could call it my first spiritual initiation as a student of Bhagwan. Seek him, to constantly remember him. That was the first initiation. And then he asked me, "Kya naam hai?" So I said, "What's your name?" He asked me in English. And I said, "Swami, Sunam." Swami said, "What meaning? What is the meaning?" I said, "Swami, it is all accumulation of good deeds, an ocean full of good deeds." Swami said, No, 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 you don't know the meaning of your own name. What you have said, Sonam, is meaningless, he said. It should be Sunam. It should be Sunam, which is good name. The meaning of Sunam is good name. And then he said, live up to your name. So that was for me my second initiation from Bhagwan. That a name is given to a person to live up to it. Because no parent gives a bad name and a negative name to a person. Because all the time, at a later stage, I heard from Bhagwan, he was telling us the meaning of Urdhvaretam Virupaksham Vishwarupaya Vai Namo Namaha. So he was interpreting Retas as energy. So life also is energy. So all the energy of the world goes up, rises up, doesn't go down. So it is not Urdhvaretas, it is Ardhareta. It is not Adhoretas, it is Urdhvaretas. So your name also should go up. Your fame also, you are born to rise up. You are born to evolve. That's what Swami was telling me. that day.
So it's very interesting. Your life journey, mother became the conduit to bring Bhagwan into the family,
Yes.
and then you grew up singing bhajans, so to say, and that is your grandmother being blessed by Bhagwan, right?
Yeah, that's my grandmother.
Yeah, and that's your mother and sister.
And that was how
The sand
administrative
used to
building,
look.
the
Yeah,
administrative
that.
building looked at that time.
Yes, 75. So let's hear about this then. I think you had that Yagnopavit Bhagwan did for you, right?
So way back in 1983, I
Hmm.
also gave my name for, because names were being collected by the warden for people who didn't undergo the threat ceremony. So I had heard that the threat ceremony would make you the twice, give you the epithet of a twice born. The
Yes. Dvij.
Dvija. So
Dvija, sorry.
I wanted to become a Dvij. So I can dare say that I might be the only Tibetan Buddhist today who became a Brahmin. Because a Brahmin, according to Bhagwan, is not a caste compartmentalization. Brahmin is not by birth. You don't become genetically Brahmin, but
Hmm.
you become a Brahmin by your practice, by your dharma, by your discipline. So I learned a lot of things about Brahmin, how to become a Brahmin, about being a Brahmin. So I gave my name, and luckily I was selected. So my mother and me, my mother also was in Prashanti Nilayam. So we sat together for the thread ceremony, and it was the most thrilling occasion again. Bhagwan, the very Adhishtatri of the Gayatri, initiating us into Gayatri, and the Gayatri intonation was so different from what I had heard earlier that it was thrilling to the core. It was fantastic. And we know how different it is. The intonation itself is so different. And then we all got initiated into the Gayatri. And since the day I got initiation, I was initiated, I very seriously, very religiously, very spiritually, I started the Gayatri Mantra Upasana. So I've been doing that throughout till date. And it has given me some of the most wonderful experiences of my life. But to, to begin with, one of the most wonderful experiences that I had connected with this Gayatri initiation was in Prashanti Nilayam at a much later time, 2 years after my initiation, after my Yagyopavitam. By the time the thread had become worn out, and then I had not changed the thread because I thought, where was the need? Because the essence was already with me. I was already practicing it. Where was the need for me to feel it every day while taking bath that I am wearing the thread? Where was the need to do that? So I just reasoned it out, and I just didn't renew my thread the next year. So 2 years into that, Swami was changing the thread for everyone, and Swami looked at me and said, तुमको thread mila? Say, yes, Swami, I got my thread. Kidhar hai? He said, and thrust his hand right into my shirt. Kidhar hai? Nahi hai, he said. So you are not wearing the thread. So I was so afraid that I had committed a mistake. I said, Swami, I didn't. I didn't change it, Swami. I didn't change it. I didn't get a new one. Swami said, no, no, you already have it here. He said, I'll tell you, even when I narrate this experience, it's very difficult for me to control my feelings. So this is what he said. It's already here. I can feel it, he said. Then he looked at me and said, the thread has made a permanent scar on your chest. So you don't need to wear it anymore, he said.
Beautiful.
So then I realized, and that gave me so much of robustness, so much of inspiration to continue more vigorously with my Gayatri sadhana. So
Beautiful.
that was my thread experience. So now this has one more sequel to it. Many years after that, I was waiting for Swami's second darshan after the bhajan. After evening bhajan, those were still the arches. The sands had vanished, concrete had taken its place, but at the same time there were arches all around the foreground of the mandir, the Prashanti Mandir,
Yeah,
and
small, small arches.
arches right at the back of the compound. And after the bhajan, some of us we used to linger around, stay back instead of going to the hostel and stretch the mandir time as much as we could. So we were waiting there, and Mr. Khaldas came to me straight and then gave me something packed in a newspaper. And then he said, Swami has given this to you, and you are supposed to open it only when you reach the hostel and don't show it to anyone. Now, for me, this was such a mystery that I wanted to run from there that very moment, reach the hostel and open it. But nevertheless, after I reached the hostel and opened my gift, it was a picture. It was it was, I can't exactly tell the size of the picture, but it was quite a big sized picture of me receiving the thread from Swami, and this was the picture, the one
Oh,
we,
beautiful.
yeah.
Okay, okay,
So
okay.
now I remember very clearly, this is not a picture taken by Mr. Mistry. And Mr.
Okay.
Mistry was the only official photographer at the time. And the picture that he had taken, I have another picture taken by Mr. Mistry, but this is taken by Mr. Mystery. Because I don't know because this picture, there was no photographer at all to take this picture from this angle. And Swami sent me the picture. And that was the day I had decided, that was the morning, in the morning, I had decided to do Maun Vratam. Because I was passing through a very difficult phase. My research assistantship was almost getting cancelled. And there was no professor who would take up my PhD, to take up the responsibility to guide me. So, for lack of a research guide, I was almost losing the opportunity to continue with my PhD. And that was the morning I had decided not to write letters to Swami. Now, these were some of the bold, determinations, some of the bold resolutions that I undertook. I'm not going to talk because I'm a talkative person, basically. So I'm going to bridle my tongue. That's one thing. Then I'm going to, enhance my, sadhana, augment my sadhana by not talking too much. And then I was waiting, and then not writing letters to Swami, because every time I wrote a letter to Swami, I felt that I was negating his omniscience.
I think in
Then
those
now,
days, everybody tried to do something or other, sometimes keeping
yes,
silent, sometimes going fasting and all that. So, yeah,
this was in the air. This was our custom, our tradition.
yeah.
And
So,
we
anytime you
knew
want
that
to capture,
yeah, and whenever we would, get into rough weather, we would just push ourselves inside the cocoon.
such thing,
And
yeah.
then, yeah, and then sing bhajans, Daya Karo, Kripa Karo, bhajans. So now that was the day I had decided I wouldn't write letters to Swami. So the only avenue left for me to, approach him conventionally, we used to write letters to him, send him telegrams. I had closed that myself. So that made my prayer so powerful that the only way was to pray, and that this was an answer to my prayer. So this was the sequel to my thread ceremony, Yajnapavitam experience.
Very nice. I believe you also had a very good experience in speeches. Swami also initiated you in public speaking, your first speech, in which you had a very blessed opportunity with Bhagwan. So I'd like to hear from your mouth.
So that was way back in 1979, 1980. 1979, if I'm the fag end of 1979. Swami said that there should be a forum of religions. This
Hmm.
was the only program on that occasion. And we have enough people to represent different religions in our hostel, Swami said. So you represent Buddhism. So now I was on tenterhooks because, on one side, I was besides myself with happiness to get this unique opportunity. But at the same time, I had my own trepidations because I was hardly a speaker. And, I didn't know what would I do on the stage, especially when I'm facing such a huge audience. What would I do? So Mr. Sudarshan was the warden of the hostel, and he said, "Now you write your own synopsis and show it to me." And this was in right earnestness, very serious. And some of the veterans in the hostel, like Shroff and these people, my seniors, and there was Sandeep Shastri, who used to rattle off a speech at the drop of a hat. For him, it was just a plaything to speak. But then I didn't know what would I do. So I started getting references everywhere, referring to people. And then ultimately, I just made a small speech. And then I committed it to memory so many times. And then ultimately, the warden said, "Come on, we'll have a rehearsal because Swami is going to come. Swami is going to see you speak. So before that happens, we have to go through it." So right in the presence of the warden and some of the lecturers, I faltered and failed miserably. Now I was thinking, what would I do when I would have to speak in the presence of Bhagwan? And you won't believe me, when Bhagwan came, he made it so simple for me. He said, think that what you are speaking, nobody in this world knows. No one, that everyone here is illiterate as far as your speech is concerned. Because that is the truth, Swami said. Nobody would know what you are going to speak about. So you have an upper hand already. So you have a very good start point. Then the other thing he said, that on that day, if you don't see anyone, then you won't get nervous at all. So you can remove your spectacles. So my glasses again. When I said glasses, I have a story to tell about my glasses, which if time permits, I'll share it later on. But then suffice it to say, at that time, we had several rehearsals of that speech, several rehearsals, and then ultimately, when D-Day was closing, and it was Swami's birthday. D-Day was closing, and one of those days was specially meant for the Forum of Religions. And then I was thinking, what would I do? Then I got I started burning with fever. And then I told the warden that somehow, whatever I do, I remember the whole speech, but when I have to speak, I forget everything, what to do. I turn a blank when I have to speak. I become a bundle of nerves, what to do. The warden said, I don't know. It is your problem. You have to solve it yourself. It's between you and Bhagwan. I am nobody to say anything. Now that made me still more nervous. So ultimately we had the dress rehearsal. Swami said everyone should be wearing the dress that, the religion permits, that expresses your religion. So
Hmm.
I was the only person who didn't have a robe to wear. So Swami said, try Swami Karunanand's robe, jubba. So Swami Karunananda's, he used to wear a very long type of kurta. He said, if you wear the kurta, it'll look like a robe on you because you are much shorter than Swami Karunanand. So I wore that robe and I looked like a joker. So
He's
Swami
he's very well built. He was a very well built person.
very well built, and on me I looked like a scarecrow wearing that robe. And then Swami came for the rehearsal, and the Swami had a fantastic laugh at my expense. And then Swami said, Now you don't look like a Buddhist with this long hair, because either you have to shave off your hair completely, you hardly have any hair on your head. So you comb it backwards, that will do the thing. And then you don't wear the specs. So he removed my glasses, and then he said, "Now you look fantastic. You look like a Buddhist monk." So it was Swami Karanananda's robe, and two ropes, two of the Angavastrams tied together. It look like it had a fair semblance of a Buddhist robe, because I didn't even know how to tie a Buddhist robe, a monk's robe. So it looked okay, like almost like a sari, a cross between a robe and a sari. And then, this is how I looked. And then Swami said, "Now you don't worry." I said, "Swami, I have a very high temperature." Swami called Dr. Alreja and said, "This fellow has no faith. Give him some medicine." So Dr. Alreja took me to the hospital and gave me, I don't know, very huge doses of tetracycline injection. And that hardly helped me. My temperature became still worse. And the next day, when we were on the stage, behind the stage, I was the last person to speak. And after my speech, I was to round it up with a bhajan. And that was Sumar Manava, which rounds up, the unity of all the faiths and all the religions. So I said, "Swami, I can't sing at all. I can't even croak. I can't sing. I'm suffering." Then that moment was the most nervous moment of my life. Then everyone thundered on the stage in Swami's presence. And then all of a sudden it was my turn. And then the principal, our dear Dr. D. Narendraji, Professor Narendran, he just came and thrust a huge garland in my hands, and he pushed me out on the stage. I felt so completely exposed and didn't know what to do on the stage. And then Swami was standing with a big smile to welcome me. And the moment I saw Swami, I saw my friend there. I went and took the flower garland and garlanded him. And then after that, he said, "Go and speak. No problem. Jao baat karo," he said. So I went there, and the first paragraph of my mugged up speech, I just rattled off. And then I got stuck on a word. And then for the soul of me, I could not remember that word at all. And then all of a sudden, I looked at Swami very piteously. I looked at Bhagwan, and Swami was looking at me, and he said, "Water? You want to drink some water?" So I just went and grabbed that water glass from Bhagwan. It was his tumbler from which he was drinking the glass. In my nervousness, I just took the tumbler from him and drank the water right out of his glass, and I believe I gave it back to him. And then Swami took the tumbler from my hand. That was the humility of the avatar. And then I kept the tumbler and I went back to my place. And then after that, what happened to me was the most mysterious thing on earth. Suddenly, as such, my vision was already impaired because I was not wearing glasses. But then the faint vision of shadows that I could see also vanished, because I saw only the ochre, the orange everywhere, and I didn't see anything. And I don't remember what I spoke after that. And then I was brought back to reality only when he was guiding me by my arms. And then he took me to the far end of the stage, to the left far end of the stage. And there people were clicking away to glory. And then Swami again held me. And then by the time Dr. Bhagwantam came there, and Swami asked Dr. Bhagwantam, "Just announce that this person who sang so well just now was suffering from very high temperature, 104 degrees temperature. Announce it." So Dr. Bhagwantam said, "Swami, as per your command, I have already announced it." Swami said, "Announce it once again." That was his love. He couldn't care about conventions when it comes to rescuing you, when it comes to coming to your succor. And then it was announced once again as though that was the most important thing on earth. And then after that, after few more poses with Bhagwan, then the the beautiful show ended there. And then soon after that, we had the music program. So that day, I believe people said, "This is this guy's day," because I had it was a double uh, bonus for me, a music program and the speech both.
Beautiful. When did your journey as a composer begin? What was your first composition and how did it start?
Well, it started much before I became his student, as I was preparing. So the preparatory exercises consisted of a deep cleansing thing. So I didn't tell you that, and I won't tell you also because for lack of time. But in 1977, I waited. I went for the promised admission in his college, but certain circumstances prevented me from joining his college. And in 1978 alone, I could join. So when I went back home again, I started, deep introspection, and I started self purification exercise, purificatory. So it consisted of thinking about him, then remembering the times with him, then not speaking, not talking, then eating once in a day. All those things I started. So then, quite by surprise, when I was only thinking of him, two beautiful bhajans were composed. I won't tell you the bhajans because at a later stage, some other people claimed the authorship of those bhajans. And till this day, and till tomorrow, and till the last, I'll never tell people what were the bhajans, because these people they had already claimed the authorship of the bhajans. So I thought, well and good, because the author, I know the author and I know the composer, so it hardly matters
No
whoever
problem.
composed. So, but in Vrindavan, we used to, for first two consecutive years, we didn't go home at all. We didn't feel like going home, and we stayed back. And whatever bhajans were taught by the seniors, we learned and sang before Bhagwan. And on one of those days, Swami asked me, "Why can't you? Have you ever tried to compose a bhajan?" And it was the evening Vrindavan session in bungalow session. And if others can compose bhajan, why can't you also compose a bhajan? Now he said that, and that became the inspiration. I went back to the hostel, and that day I sat in the. We had the music room. Every Satyasai hostel has music rooms. So I sat in the music room, and I tried, and I composed. And the composition, I was then, no sooner it was composed, it came out. I was in a hurry to sing it before Bhagwan, and I sang it also before Bhagwan. But much before that, a year before that, when I had sung Giridhari Lal Sham Gopal in Swami's presence, Swami had promised me that he would allow me to sing during Jhula. So I said, I didn't know what was the Jhula program. I was a new entrant, a new student. So I asked the seniors, and they said the Jhula is a program that Jhula is a great opportunity when some of the best musicians of the country come and sing. So I straight away I thought that, am I really, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, carry on. We can hear you.
No. So I started thinking that maybe I am classed as one of the best musicians on earth. For no reason I started thinking that way. So because of the vanity, I lost the chance to sing on Jhula, and instead of that, we did the Ram Katha. There is a picture of we wearing, one of the slides I think shows all of us wearing scarf and Sevadar scarf and patch and receiving gifts from Bhagwan. And that pertains to that moment when we sang Ram Katha in Swami's presence. And we used to, those days, there were no Sevadals. Can you hear me?
Yes, 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 we can hear you.
So there were
Please
no
carry on.
sevadals those days. We used to go during festive occasions to Prashanti Nilayam and man all the posts, all the responsibilities we used to take up as sevadals. And even as music boys, we had to wear the sevadal scarf and badge, and then we had to sing, perform on the stage. So this was that. So when Swami asked, when I sang the bhajan that came a year later was this one, Karuna Sindhu Dashrath Nandan, which the whole world knows about this bhajan. So
Please
I
sing a
sang
line.
that.
Please sing a line, no problem. Please sing a line.
Karuna Sindhu Dashrath Nandan Parti Purishwar Ram प्रेम स्वरूप प्रशांति निकेतन मारुति से वितरा अहल्योद्धारक राजीवलोचन रघुकुल भूषण राम. So this was the bhajan, just 3 lines. And
I want to tell
I
the viewers that all these bhajans will be posted on the channel with darshan music. So as a darshan video, we have created Sonam Bhaiya's bhajans, and people who are interested, they can listen to it. Yes, Bhaiya, please carry on.
So I sang before Bhagwan, and Swami appreciated the bhajan. He said, "बहुत अच्छा composition है." This is how he used to warm up the hearts of every student, every devotee throughout. Like he was all encouragement, and his encouragement is worth 1,000 encouragements, million encouragements from people, from million people, because he means every word of what he speaks. So when he encouraged, you remain over encouraged. So as uh, as he said that, I straight away, became so pompous, and it boosted up my ego a lot. And I believe my seniors tell me later on that you changed your attitude, man, after that. So that was my first composition, and it took, because Swami had to boost me up to show me in my true colors, so that I would make my mistakes, and then he would chastise me, and then he would treat me properly in his workshop. And that is what everyone goes through in his workshop. First he, you know
Hooks you and then
praises you,
cooks you. As
then he cooks you, and
cooks you.
then
As
he eats
Kasturi
you.
Garu, this was a very beautiful quote of Kasturi Garu. He hooks you and then he cooks you. As a musician, I'm sure you might have had a wonderful learnings that Bhagwan shows that he's the controller. He gives you the music. So I remember something you're talking about, that Jhaptal, 10 beats.
Oh yeah, that was during the 60th birthday, Bhagwan's 60th birthday. Swami had reserved uh, all the 3 days, 21st, 22nd, and 23rd November, for the students. So every day we were to either perform a music program or do a dance or a drama, So all 3 days were reserved for us. And Swami would tell us, some of the best musicians are waiting, are queuing up for this opportunity, and I'm giving this chance to you. So you make the best out of it. So the boys, straight away started writing songs, conceptualizing themes, and the hostel became a buzz of activities, hub of such activities. So many people became poets. They started writing poetry, and and the challenge was, Swami threw a challenge that every day you have to come up with something new. And then if we didn't have something new to produce or show him, he would tell us that we'll stop the program, we'll cancel it. And then for fear of that, we used to be all the time on our toes. And one of the songs that was written by one of our senior brothers, one of my colleagues, research scholars, PVSS Prasad Rao, I asked him to write a song for Swami Jhula, and the song should be, such that, it should say that, not only your birthday blatantly or directly, but it should say that we are so fortunate to host your birthday, celebrate your birthday in the heart of our hearts. Such should be the theme of the songs. We requested every songwriter to write songs for Swami's Jhula and Swami's birthday. So he wrote a song, and then I asked one of our friends, S. Kumar, a very good bhajan singer. I asked him to accompany me to in the bhajan while tuning the song. So I said, because my knowledge of Telugu is very bad, so it's better you tell me the meaning and you sing out the song, so that the phrasing of the song is not incorrect. So that, mind you, that evening we have to perform before Bhagwan. We have to show the song to Swami. So in the morning, we sacrificed our morning, breakfast. And during the breakfast hour, we sat in the school staff room, and there was a picture of Bhagwan taken inside the interview room. So that picture was right in front of us. And then, as Kumar, I said, first let us count the beats, so that we'll know the structure of the song. And accordingly, he phrased it properly. Pavalinchu partisha patupatu nupupaina, like that and exactly it counted to 10 beats. And I was thrilled to the core. So the moment it came to 10 beats, I remembered the previous year when Dr. S. Rajeshwar Rao and P. Sushila and these people had performed. They had given a sterling performance, rendition of devotional songs, specially tuned for Swami's birthday. And when they did that, later on, we were the accompanists. We were privileged to accompany the singers. And then, and that was a great opportunity Swami used to give us, another way of giving us extra Padma Namaskars. And so Dr. Rajeshwar Rao told us that, on purpose, we composed a Jhula song in 10 beats, because the 10 beats, it has a very gentle swing. And normally, when Swami sits on the swing, people who have the prerogative to, who have the privilege to swing the Jhula, push the Jhula, if a fast number song is going on, they will be carried away. They will be carried by the swing of the mood of the song. And then if they push this Jhula hard, it could disturb Bhagwan's, posture. It would disturb Bhagwan. It would make him uncomfortable. So we specially designed the songs to suit the Jhula and the swing of the Jhula, the movement of the Jhula. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The movement is so mellow, so beautiful. So
it's a very slow movement in which the swing can go easy.
Okay. Yeah, very gentle movement. So
you can sing one line of this Pavalinchu Partisha, so that people will know it, they can remember it. Just one line.
Pavalinchu Partisha Patupa Nupupaina Mudamara Muni Janula Kalpinchi Solasevu. This was how the song went. So now he told me, as Kumar, after we sat together and phrased the song together, we started tuning. And you won't believe me, in the next 45 minutes, that was the breakfast time, we had set the song to tune. He would sing out, he would, speak out one phrase and I would just tune it. And he would tell me another phrase and I would tune it. Normally, to tune a song, if you are doing it with your ego, with your sense of accomplishment, it might take months and years together to get a good tune. That is my own experience. And here was a most beautiful tune, a lilting tune, Pavalin Chupartisha. And the tune, quite miraculously again, it expressed itself in Rag Bhageshwari. And we had heard that Bhageshwari is a raga which we sing around that time when the jhula takes place, around
Oh,
7 to 8 o'clock in the
uh-huh.
evening.
So it's a
So
perfect
every
rag for the time also.
perfect rag for the perfect time. And about this perfection of the demand and supply, the demand of notes and the supply of notes. Swami has told us at length at a later period of time. So we took the song, and in the afternoon we didn't feel like having lunch. So I didn't have my lunch. So instead of lunch during that lunch period, I did one background music. So after the music in the evening, we were now well equipped. We entered the interview room, and Swami said, "Anything new, Chapu?" And then S. Kumar said, "Swami Sonam has composed the song." And Swami looked at me very quizzically. He looked at me and said, "You have composed?" That by the time I was a weather-beaten person, I learned my lessons. But our Maya is such that any number of, any length of lessons that you learn, you tend to forget it immediately, and then you commit the same mistakes again. So at that point in time, when he said, "You composed it, okay, then you sing it." Then S. Kumar sang Pavalin Chupartisha. The moment he started Pavalin, Pavalin Chupartisha, Swami started humming the tune. Swami started singing that song. Patupanu Kupaina Nid, that the whole song he sang. Mudmara Muni Janula Kalapinchi Solasiv. Then after that he started humming the tune. He's so the after it was we were singing between sobs and tears. And then after the song was sung out, Swami said, "Now tell me who composed it." And then, of course, we all said, "Swami, you composed it, you composed it, Swami, you composed it." And Swami said, "You people only decompose. Only the avatar, only the Lord, only the original, he composes." So on this, he has said so many things at a later stage. Uh, I don't know whether we should get into that. Anything else?
Wow. No, these are
This is
all,
how
these are all beautiful memories which remind us that, how Bhagwan looks after everything. I remember you had once mentioned about a composition of Hariom Sharan. Do you recall that?
No, it was at that time. Yeah, I remember the Hari Om Sharan. If you are reminding me of the Hari Om Sharan song that we sang during 68th birthday, then I can
No,
remember.
the song book of Hariom, from where you got a song and you were trying to
Yes,
compose it.
that was the 68th birthday program, and it was the third consecutive day when Swami showed us his omniscience in terms of compositions. So the first day was Pavalin Chupartisha. On the second day, he asked us to sing something new, and we sang one Professor Bhagwat Prasad Mishra's song that we had tuned, "Aaj ki raat hai, nirali hai, use mat pucho." We sang it, and on the third day, we were by the time looking for in search of compositions to the point of madness, and Mrs. Ratan Lal, that grand lady of Prashanti Nilayam, she gave us a book, and he said that try see if it is of any help to you. The book was half eaten by moth. It was a moth eaten book, and it was a very old book. And we looked for songs, and ultimately we found one song which was a complete song in that book. Rest of the book was eaten away by moth or some rat or whatever. So that song, we added some words. Abhinav Kumar Upadhyay added some words. Naam ki jyot jagale man mein. Antar Jyot Jagale, and all that we added to the song, and then we tuned the song, and then we it took us 2 days to complete the song, and then we on the that process was going on. So on the third day of this sequence, we took the song to Bhagwan. We sang the entire song. We the whole all the words were what the book contained. We only added we prefixed it with our own words, which was like a mukhra of the song, and then like the introductory part of a song, the prelude to the song. And after we sang the whole song, Swami said, by adding a few lines here and there, can you make somebody else's composition yours? He said. Then he said, I gave this song to Om Sharan in 1950, he said. So I went back to the hostel and took out the book. And we were in such hurry every day that I had not had the chance to look at the book properly, read through the book properly. And the front page of the book, you know, contained the title of the book, and it said uh, Om Sharan, Brahmachari Om Sharan, Sankalan 1950 Sal. It was written there.
Edition 1950 edition of Om Sharan.
1950 edition of the book written by Om Sharan. So that was a beautiful eye opener. So
He
we
was a
had
brahmachari
several,
at that time.
yeah. In the initial days in Vrindavan, I had my initial again jolts from Bhagwan of his omniscience. In the evening during the bungalow bhajans, he would play the talam, and then with such indulgence, sense of indulgence, he would play the talam, more indulgent, more enthusiastic than all of us bhajan singers there. And then the last, the end of the bhajan session would be indicated by him by resting the talam, the small manjira, the talam, the cymbal, on the arm of the chair. The moment he
Let
would
me
rest the talam,
let me ask a question to the viewers here. How did, as brother is telling you that in those years, Bhagwan would keep the symbol while he's playing on the arm rest of his chair, and that was a signal of bhajan closure. So, what was the bhajan closure signal afterwards, especially in the Parthi times in 80s? How did Swami close bhajans? So, I'll leave it for 5 minutes and see if anybody wants to answer that. Yes, Bhaiya, you can continue for that. So he would leave the symbol on the armrest.
so, yeah, he would rest it on the arm, and then that would signature the signal the end of the session. That would be the last session. For the last song, he would do that. So when he was doing that on one such session, during one such session, I don't know for what reason, I had a deep desire to sing one more song. So I said, "Oh no, Swami! Like it's all loud thinking." I was nothing articulated because you can't speak loudly before when the bhajan is going on. So in my mind, I was saying, "Oh no, Swami! One more bhajan I want to sing." And then he sharply looked at me and said, sing." And then he picked up the cymbal again, just ready for the next. So I thought, my God, he can. Earlier he had already done that. He had already shown me those, those divine, those mysterious signs earlier. I'll send him for admission. I'll give you admission. All that he had done, all that I had forgotten, and then I was completely, dumbfounded when he read my thought and then asked me to sing. So the next day, I wanted to test him. So the monkey in me again did the trick, and as we sat for bhajan this time, I thought in my mind, Swami, I want to sing. When he was signaling the closure of the session and the last bhajan, I thought, Swami, one more bhajan, Swami, Nanda Lala, Nacho Nacho Nandalala. The moment I thought of that, he looked at me and said, Nandalala. And the gestures of Bhagwan, you can write a book on it. His gestures, only his students or the person to whom it is,
Meant
the
for.
gesture is implied, to direct it. We understand the gesture thoroughly, better than more than spoken expression, and it's so vivid, so beautiful.
Actually, through bhajans, he has taught many lessons. Let me remind you of another bhajan of yours, Deen Dukha Bhanjan.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That brings me back to so many beautiful memories. But this
You can sing one
Nandalala,
line and then tell the story, then tell that lesson.
yeah, this Nandalala, I just want to finish it.
Okay.
I this was the song Nandalala, Nandalala, nacho 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 Nandalala.
Yes.
So Navanta Choda He Bala Gopala Gopi Manohar Gopal Bala. So here we normally stop the bhajan
Stop.
with a big crash. Navan Gopi
Gopi.
Manohar Gopal Bala. We should stop here. So there were times when more than once we forgot to stop. And Swami looked at us very sharply and said, You forgot to stop there. You have to stop there. Don't you know that? Because when you stop and start again, there is a newborn charm in whatever we do. There is novelty in whatever we do. And that lesson was taught to us by Bhagwan so many times through this bhajan also, and this omniscience through this bhajan. But then you were telling me about Dina Dukha Bhanjana.
Hmm.
You know, this bhajan was composed, and those days for every bhajan that was composed, Swami never failed to, at least to me, he never failed to acknowledge the bhajan later on. Whomever might be the singer, but Swami would walk up to me and say, Acha hai, bagundi, theek hai, all that he used to say. But for Dina Dukha Bhanjana, I felt it was such a beautiful composition. दीन दुख भंजन अलख निरंजन करुणामया साई देवा करुणामया साई देवा. So this is the bhajan. I won't sing the whole bhajan. Uh, you know the bhajan very well. People
Yes,
know
of
the
course. We
bhajan
all
very
know
well.
it. We all know it. Huh.
So after this bhajan was sung by Arun Kumar Tiwari, he introduced the bhajan in Prashanti Nilayam. And of course, there is no time to tell you about the introduction of a bhajan. It used to be a very detailed affair, and we used to practice for hours on end. And then that bhajan had to come out well. 10 minutes before the bhajan, we used to get into a meditative mood, especially the person who would be introducing the bhajan. The instruments would be well tuned, the rhythmic structure would be well organized beforehand so that nothing should go wrong when we introduce the bhajan. And the meditation part was so that there would be no trace of ostentation when we introduce the bhajan. And the moment there would be the slightest trace of doership there, Swami would stop the bhajan. He would just condemn the bhajan. So we used to be on tenter hooks, especially whenever we introduced a new composition. So after Arun Kumari Tiwari sang it very well, it was so beautifully acknowledged by Bhagwan on the throne, from the throne. And then I waited for Swami to tell me one word, Bhagwandi and all that, the magic words. And nothing came because the feeling of doership is so strong that I somehow, for the life of me, despite telling myself again and again that he's the doer, he's the composer, it was a very superfluous type of telling myself, because I would feel that anyway I was instrumental at least, but I composed it. Ultimately, you own up the authorship of the composition. So When I waited for Swami to tell me, he didn't. So I waited for 2 days. On the third day, could be the third day or fourth day, I wrote a letter to Swami. Swami, you didn't say anything about the new composition. And I put it in my pocket and I sat for his darshan. And he picked up Arun Kumar Tiwari right from the back and picked me up from the front and took us inside the interview room just for the duration of what I'm going to describe now. He said, Kahe ko aisa karta hai? He said, and took out the letter from my pocket. And then
Oh
without
God.
reading the letter, yeah, without even reading the letter, he said, why do you think that I should acknowledge every time you compose a new bhajan? Why do you think that I should acknowledge every time that you compose a new bhajan? Bhajan was good. Then he said, did you also compose the 7 notes? This is how he floored me. Did you compose the 7 notes? I was completely shocked. And I said, Swami, no, Swami. Then who composed the 7 notes? So I said, Swami, you composed it. Swami said, did you see me compose the 7 notes? Did you compose the Nada Brahman, the Omkar, the Pranava? He said, did you compose the Pranava, Omkar? Because when the 7 notes blend into with each other, it becomes the Omkar. It's the primeval note. Just like the 7 colors, when they blend into each other, the color becomes white, which is the color of infinity and eternity. So you tell me, did you compose the Omkar? I said, no, Swami. Now you tell me, are you a manager or a leader? What are you? So I thought I should say I am a leader, Swami, because Swami would only expect the best from you. So I said, Swami, leader. Swami said, how? Because you have, through this composition, in the context of this bhajan, you have only managed to weave the notes together, to bring the notes together, make combinations and permutations of the notes together. You didn't compose, you are not the original composer of the very cause of the notes, the very source of the notes. You are not the cause, you are not the original author of that. You have only managed to bring the crisscross the notes together, make permutations of the notes together to form a melodic pattern. And like this, infinite number of melodic patterns can be derived out of these 7 notes. Don't you know that? He said. So I said, Swami, by that time I was in tears because such a beautiful moment and such a beautiful thing he was telling. So you are only a manager and not a leader. If you want to sing a bhajan, be a leader and sing the bhajan, he said. You want to sing a bhajan in the true sense of the term, be a leader and sing. Be aware of the Omkar and sing the bhajan. Be aware of the source and sing the bhajan. At a later stage, he was also, but at that time he said, feel the ground beneath your feet and then sing the bhajan, he said. This was, they feel the ground beneath your feet was said to me in English. Because people
It's a
normally
very
ask me,
profound, it's a very deep sentence, Feel the ground
yeah.
beneath your feet. Find the
Then I
find the
shook my head.
ground beneath your feet.
Then I shook my head as though I had understood the whole thing. And then Swami said, why do you shake your head? Do you understand what I said? What is feeling the ground beneath your feet? Discovering the ground beneath your feet. What is it? I said, I don't know, Swami. Then why did you shake your head? Why did you say, yes, I understood? You should, the moment you don't understand anything, you should immediately ask a question. And then it will be answered, he said. Many questions remain unanswered because we just don't care to know the meaning. And then he said, finding the ground beneath your feet is touching the reality that you are. It is Brahma Sparsha, he said. Brahma Sparsha is touching the reality that you are. You are not what you think you are. And then he said about all that. And then he said, if you sing with that cognizance, if you sing with that awareness, of who you are, then you sing, you become a pure bhajan singer. Because
Beautiful.
it will fill you with vairagya, he said. It will fill you, your essence with vairagya. Unless you are a vairagi, you cannot sing a bhajan, he said. This was the final thing he said that day. Unless you are a vairagi, you cannot sing a bhajan.
We can do a full study circle on just this statement. Unless you are a Vairagi, a
Yeah.
renunciant, you cannot sing a bhajan. What does it mean? Can you try to explain a little bit? It's a
It
very deep sentence you made. You know, I should say
no,
Bhagwan made.
he said what he was telling us, and what I, after much uh, you know dwelling on it at a later time, I thought of it. He said that you cannot do anything, forget about singing, you cannot achieve anything in life carrying the whole world in your mind. You cannot carry the burden of the whole world, the world of uh, sense perceptions. You cannot carry that world in your mind, all that filth and all that garbage in your mind, and then sing a bhajan, succeed in singing a bhajan, because your mind is there. When I want you to understand, sing with all your heart, because at a later stage he has told me, uh, you know in a similar situation, he told me, unless you compose yourself, you cannot be a composer, he told me. To be a composer, you must first compose yourself. So when I asked him how to compose myself, Swami, he said, maintain your composure, as simple as that. Don't get excited, don't revel in somebody praising you, and then you feel very belittled when if someone chastises you, brings you down, tries to bring you down. So he said that can be done, that equanimity can be obtained, can be attained only when you bring your mind, your thought, word, and action together in one place. Mansa vacha karmana, if you can bring it to a united center, if you can unite your thoughts, words, and actions, what you think, you speak, and what you speak, you do. If you are able to do that, then you become a good composer, you become a good singer. That is
Beautiful. I
feeling the
think,
ground.
yes, I think this connection of Vairagya, the renunciation, with singing bhajan is a very beautiful divine perspective, to let me answer the question for audiences just before I proceed further. And many of you have responded, yes, it was Swami pushing the footrest back. So when he would push the
Oh,
footrest back, that was a signal of arti to start. And many times Bhagwan would just lift his feet and not push. So the boys would not know should we sing the next song or wait for the arti. And then as soon as the next bhajan will start, Swami would push the stool and arti would start. That's why in those
yes,
days, many people must have heard one line of bhajan and then the arti starting. And that was because Swami
yes,
was playing around with the singers, that all these lovely memories of Bhagwan, how he used to play around with that. So he would just push the stool, and many times I used to love that. He would take his feet out and then wait. So boys would not know whether to start or not to start. So that was how he did that very beautifully. Okay, Swaram Bhaiya, let's one more I wanted to share with you, one memory I want to give you, and just so that it will trigger your thoughts. You remember he was talking about a mountain path, a magazine which had come.
yeah,
I think that will be a
yes,
nice.
yes, yeah.
So
We shared that
tell us about
together.
it.
Before that, Abhi, can I
Hmm.
just quickly share, because I'll forget to share this experience. I haven't said this anywhere because I had written it in my diary, and this was again pertaining to the 60th birthday memory. You know,
Okay.
and we had a student named Krishnamurti Gopinath
Yeah.
from Toronto, from Canada. He was a perfectionist, an extremely brilliant musician, brilliant student. And then it got into his mind that since I had composed an English song for the 60th birthday, O King of Kings, Sai Baba, we sing to thee, happy birthday to you. He also wanted to compose a song. And I encouraged him because we needed some new compositions. And he composed a most beautiful song. I'll just sing the song a little bit. It's higher than the heights where the wild eagles soar. It's deeper than the depths of the ocean, much, much more. It's something that is far, far vaster than the sky. It's the love of my mother, Mother Sai. That was the song.
Wow,
It's
beautiful.
higher than the heights where the wild eagles soar. It's deeper than the depths of the ocean, much, much more. It's something that is far, far vaster than the sky. It's the love of my mother, Mother Sai. This was the song. So
Yes, sir.
Swami came for the interview rehearsal. Now this was the big rehearsal with all instruments, and this was the big proper rehearsal with Bhagwan. It was not fixing the songs in the interview room, but a proper rehearsal which he used to grace throughout 1 month. He used to come almost every day for the rehearsals. So when Krishnamurti sang this song, Swami picked on him and said, "What type of composition is this? It's higher than the heights and deeper than the depths. It's lost to nothing. This song is higher than the heights, it has gone up, it hasn't come down at all. And deeper than the depths, it has gone down into the depths. How will it emerge out? And what a song do you write?" Swami said like this. And Krishnamurti felt so bad. And we were all feeling so bad because by the time we had a feeling of teamwork. It was such a team spirit that it was our song. And then Swami was almost on the verge of rejecting it. And then the way in which he lifted the song sky high, it is only the avatar could do such a thing. He said, "Tell me," now like suddenly he changes the tone and the whole climate changes there. He told Krishnamurti, "Tell me, how far can you go beyond the sky?" And he said, "I don't know, Swami." "And how deep can you go down below all the saptat, all the 7 lokas down there, and even below that? How far can you go?" So on both sides of your existence is infinity. So you are singing a song of infinity. It's a beautiful song, Swami said. It's a beautiful song of infinity. Then it lifted all our spirits, And then Swami said, "It's higher than the heights. It's deeper than the depths of the ocean, much, much more," he has said. It's deeper than the depths. Is something that is vast, far, far vaster than the sky. So, Gagana Sadrisham, he said. The sky is only a witness. The sky contains everything. Dharma is sky, he said. Dharma itself is sky. Sky is dharma. The space given to you is the sky. The universe is the sky. Then he said, now if you would have written the song in such a spirit that it's love and love. If you would have stopped there, I would have been so happy. Because that is the truth. The day you sing like that, Swami said again, the day you compose and sing like that, with true understanding of love as your existence, then that day he said, Asti Bhati Priyam. Asti Bhati Priyam are the 3 characteristics of Brahman and of which you are a part as Atma. You are the Atman. Asti is existence. Bhati is beaming it out, effulgence. And Asti Bhati Priyam. Priyam is loving itself, liking itself, loving itself, adoring itself, which is love. Love alone knows how to love itself. Nothing else in this world can love like love. So then Swami said, Asti Bhati Priyam, if they are the features of Brahman, which is your true reality, now that is the ground beneath the feet. Then if you look at the characteristics of Rupa and of the Jagat, it is Rupa and Nama. And Swami said, this was inspired. He didn't say it was said by Shankaracharya. He said this was inspired in Shankaracharya long, long, long time back. He said
Wow.
that.
Wow.
This was inspired in Shankaracharya to Shankaracharya long, long time back. That the characteristics of Brahman are Asti Bhati Priyam, and those of the world of Jagat are Nama and Rupa. And Nama and Rupa are just transient and fleeting. And Asti Bhati Priyam is reality. So that day, within the span of one song, a part of that song, in fact, it's higher than the heights where the wild eagles soar. Swami gave us this beautiful exegesis of Vedanta.
I think, yeah, I think I need to have you one more time because we have not even, scratched the surface, I should so to say. But it'll be wonderful because I want to keep the timing properly. And
Yeah,
I think if you agree, then maybe we'll continue this conversation next week also. But I would
yeah,
like to close it, this session, so to say, with some bhajans. We have spoken so much about it, and now it is a Bhagwan's week, so to say. We are celebrating Bhagwan's birthday. We are celebrating our memories, our gratitude to Bhagwan. So I would like to leave the floor open for you. Whatever comes to your heart, just sing along. And I can tell the viewers that most of his songs will be on the channel. We have made certain bhajan videos and we'll place it so you can enjoy that. But right now, I leave the floor open to Brother Sonam. And please sing medleys or whatever you feel like. And, you know, give us that charge of Bhagwan.
it so happened that at a certain point in time, I had composed so many bhajans in Yaman, Rag Yaman,
Hmm.
and boys used to tell me another bhajan in Yaman. They used to tease me like that. So many Yamans. This fellow is Yaman Sonam. They used to call me. So you know, so many. Some of those bhajans I would like to sing of yesteryears, which we hardly sing these days.
Sure.
भव भय भंजन शेष शयन हरि sorry भव भय भंजन शेष शयन हरि प्रणव स्वरूप नारायण भव भय भंजन शेष शयन हरि प्रणव स्वरूप नारायण राजीव लोचन आदि सनातन बंध विमोचन नारायण पद्मनाभ प्रभु कमला मनोहर वैकुंठपति नारायण वैकुंठपति नारायण प्रणव स्वरूप नारायण जननी साई देवी दयामयी जननी मां कृपालिनी मां तुम हो प्रेम स्वरूपिणी मां दया करो सत्य साई मां जननी प्रेम साई मां जननी प्रेम साई माता महेश्वरी त्रिभुवन जननी प्रेममयी सत्य साई जननी त्रिभुवन मोहिनी पाप विनाशिनी वेद कलामयी कल्याणदायिनी जगतोधारिणी पड़ती नारायणी प्रेममयी सत्य साई जननी. I just want to sing one song in this raga. I have to find the song. I'll just find the song.
Okay. Sure.
This is a new composition, and these new compositions and the new compositions that are coming up throughout the world. You remember for Bridge Across Time when I requested our alumni to compose bhajans and send us. In a week's time, we had 27 new compositions on our desk.
We had so many. Everybody came up.
Everybody came up with new compositions, and everyone has the acumen, the capability, the capacity to compose. Only thing is, Swami says, be empty of any substance, then you can compose. So this composition came to me, and it signatures the continuity of the tradition of encouragement, divine encouragement from Bhagwan for us to become ourselves. So this bhajan is Netra Darshan, Adbhuta Darshan. So this came when I was sitting here in this room and then thinking about one moment in the life of Leela Amma of Gindi. And she had mentioned that whenever Swami used to once in a while play pranks with the gopikas of those times on the banks of Chitravati, Swami used to show himself. Swami used to vanish from amidst them, and then the next moment he used to show himself at a distance, and he would show himself like a shaft of light, and the light would twirl and twist, and then he would just say, "Hello, I am here." So, and then Leela Amma says that was Netra Darshan. Swami told them that what you had just now was Netra Darshan. The word Netra Darshan inspired a bhajan in this same ragam. I'll just sing it. Netra Darshan, Adbhut Darshan, Divya Darshan Sai. Netra Darshan, Adbhut Darshan, Divya Darshan Sai. Mere Sai Nath Bhagwan, Mere Sai Nath Bhagwan, Mere Sai Nath Bhagwan, Mere Sai Nath Bhagwan. हृदय दर्शन पावन दर्शन अंतर दर्शन साई हृदय दर्शन पावन दर्शन अंतर दर्शन साई अमृत दर्शन आत्मा दर्शन दीजो मेरे भगवान अमृत दर्शन आत्मा दर्शन दीजो मेरे भगवान मेरे साई नाथ भगवान मेरे साई नाथ भगवान नेत्र दर्शन अद्भुत दर्शन दिव्य दर्शन साई
Sai willing, we'll continue this session again, and there are so many other facets of bhajan, especially the Sai bhajan category,
Yes.
the genre of music, and we will like to go a little deeper into that to understand more about it. So I think Sonam Bhaiya, on behalf of everybody here, I am requesting you that if Swami willing, we'll have you again next week to continue this
That is
beautiful
another,
story, and
that would be another bonus privilege to me.
that will be nice. Thank you so much. I think it was a very beautiful evening for all of us. We had such a nice learning session with stories of Bhagwan, and to see how he has taught such profound truths and such profound lessons in such a simple and cute manner. So thank you very much for
Yes.
your time. I really appreciate,
Sairam.
and then I wish to offer my gratitude to Bhagwan on this auspicious
Sairam.
occasion, and wish everyone who is watching this program a very divine birthday. May Bhagwan's blessings be on all of us, and may we all experience His true truth within us. Thank you, Sai Ram,
Sairam.
to everybody.
Sairam. Sairam.